Annika, or for whoever wants to speak about
Ask the
Greek.
question and then we'll see.
The Greek authorities said this morning that they had reached a deal on a new bailout with the institutions, and apart from a few outstanding details. So I would like to know whether the Commission also thinks there's a staff-level agreement and what these outstanding details are, and how big this new bailout is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Annika.
Technical talks were indeed concluded late last night after weeks of intense negotiations on the basis of the Euro Summit statement of July 13th and on the basis of the work done by the institutions with the Greek authorities before then. The Commission team has worked day and night to deliver on the Euro Summit statement and on the expectations of the Eurogroup. This work was done hand in hand with the IMF, the ECB, and the ESM on the ground. The institutions and the Greek authorities achieved an agreement in principle on a technical basis, and talks are still ongoing on finalizing details. Now, as a next step, political assessment will be made. President Juncker has been in close contact with the teams on the ground. He also had a phone conversation yesterday with German Finance Minister Schäuble, Greek Prime Minister Tsipras, and he will speak today to German Chancellor Merkel and French President Hollande. As for the political assessment I just mentioned, we expect a phone call of the EFC to take place early this afternoon for all member states to take stock. And as you know, as long as the negotiations are ongoing and no political agreement is reached, we will not comment on the details of any agreement.
Okay, thank you. Please. Still for Annika on Greece?
Sorry?
Is it still for Annika? Yeah.
You said it was finalised last night. I mean, why was the Greek finance minister and his negotiators coming out of the hotel at 8 o'clock this morning saying they'd just finished?
Let's call it early morning, late last night, early morning.
Can you, presumably, if they've reached a technical agreement, they have kind of at least provisionally agreed on the overall sum of the programme. Can you put a figure on it? First point. Second point, any agreement on disbursement of the first tranche and how big it should be?
Those are not details we will comment on until a political agreement is reached.
Thank you. Any more questions for Annika?
Yeah, Adam from the BBC. Do we get any pieces of paper from the conclusion of the technical talks? Do we get a document or a text that we can look at to see what the product of these technical talks are, so that we can get a sense of what the input into the political phase actually is and what they're going to be discussing in this political phase?
That would be a first, and it's not foreseen at this point.
Christian.
So to sum up, you're expecting Mrs. Merkel and Mr. Schäuble and Mrs. Stubb and all of the hardliners in the Eurogroup to say that what was agreed yesterday is satisfactory, and then you'll say that it's an agreement. But for the time being, you can't even say that there's an agreement. Something was produced overnight, and therefore the Greeks are announcing that there's an agreement, but you don't want to comment on it. You can't even say it if it's an agreement.
Technical level agreement reached by the staff of the institutions and the Greek authorities on the ground following the weeks of negotiations. What we don't have at the moment is a political agreement, and that is what we would need. And as I said, the technical agreement has been reached in principle. There are some small details that still need to be finalized.
Okay, thank you. Christoph.
Do you expect that the negotiations will conclude today?
You mean on a technical level, the negotiations have concluded?
Yeah, you mentioned that there would be some open details. So do you expect there will be a conclusion today?
Yes.
Yes.
What does President Juncker plan to say to Chancellor Merkel and President Hollande? Thank you. And what did he say yesterday to Mr. Schäuble and to Mr. Tsipras?
Nice try, but as you know, we don't comment on the content of these phone calls. They're confidential phone calls between the two partners, and we're not going to comment on the content.
Or is he going to talk about the package? Is he going to say it's a good deal? Generally speaking, what's the purpose of the call to these people?
As I mentioned, the call of questions on Greece, you can be pretty certain that Greece is being discussed. I'm sure that as they have friendly relationships, they will also be talking about their summer holidays, but the purpose of the call is certainly not to exchange niceties about summer holidays.
Adam.
Can you tell us what time the call's happening?
We don't comment. I don't actually know exactly what time the calls are happening.
Later today, Nick.
Annika, is the privatization fund of 50 billion among the small details that still have to be worked out?
As I don't comment on the details of the technical agreement, I'm also not going to say what is still outstanding. As you know, the privatization fund was part of the Euro Summit statement from 13th of July, and therefore, of course, it will be part of the overall MOU. I'm not going to comment now on what the outstanding details are.
Thank you.
So apart from the phone calls today and yesterday, what actually happens next? Is Commissioner Moscovici on holiday at the moment? Does he plan to be in Brussels this week? Are we looking at a Eurogroup meeting? Will it be by phone? Will it be here, etc.?
The political level of the Commission, including the President, Vice President Dombrovskis, and Commissioner Moscovici, have been very closely involved in the negotiations. They've been updated about the state of the negotiations also throughout the night, and have all been holding phone calls. As for whether or not a Eurogroup physical or a conference call will take place, that's a question to ask the Eurogroup Secretariat. In any case, the political level of the Commission would be available for any such meetings or calls.
Okay, thank you. Jonathan.
Why is the call an EFC call involving 28 member states and not a Eurogroup call? Does it imply some link to the EFSM and another bridge loan?
Again, that's a question you should be asking the Eurogroup Secretariat and not us.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Annika on Greece or other topics?